point, with Rahul Gandhi directly connecting what's happening in Indigo to what has been called by the Congress earlier, Soot Boot Ki Sarkar, the monopoly model, the purported monopoly model that exists in India. Vasudha.
That's right, Padmaja. In fact, it's a match-fixing monopoly is what he has alleged. Now, this was an opinion piece that he wrote for the Indian Express in November 2024, and he has retweeted that. And on that, of course, he has co-tweeted saying that this fiasco by Indigo is the cost of the government's monopoly model. And Vishnu was also explaining how this probably could also be his, lack of understanding of how the aviation sector works in this country. But he says that it's the ordinary citizens who are paying the price, which is actually true because there are people who have been waiting in airports for the last 13 hours. He calls the delays, cancellations and helplessness a direct, outcome of the government giving importance to monopoly and connections over competence and fair play. Now, that's a big allegation that he has made. And this comes even as the government is trying hard to understand how to sort of break this duopoly in the aviation sector. Mr. Rammohan Naidu, the aviation minister, also held a very important review meeting yesterday. I was speaking to the aviation secretary saying that several review meetings have been going on, but like Vishnu was also pointing out, there's very little that the government can do because this all also has to do with the players themselves. Yes, we'll have to improve, the rules and make them congenial for more players to come in so that this monopoly or duopoly breaks.
This is a manifestation,
the
Vasudha.
situation
This is
seems quite bad.
Rahul Gandhi can't go two steps without blaming either the government or the Prime Minister for one thing. It's a good idea to ask questions of the system. But like Vishnu said, there are few things more free market than civil aviation in India. In fact, the manner in which many companies have tried and failed only actually proves this. Indigo's problems are quantifiable. They are very specific. Vishnu and his team have been reporting even before it actually became such a huge problem today. And I just want to say this morning that NDTV's team has its eyes on the Modi-Putin summit, which kicks off in a big way in a moment. But we need to keep our focus also on this story that is disrupting the plans and lives of thousands, if not lakhs of people across the country. And it is only getting worse. Over 550 flights have been disrupted at this point of time. And therefore, the images you're seeing, Vishnu, Padmaja, Gauri also joined me on this coverage. This is a nightmare. The politics is one aspect of it. Leader of the opposition has every right to ask those questions, but to talk about a monopoly model just reeks of political frustration. And I don't even think it deserves the kind of attention it does, because we should be talking about, like you said, Vishnu, the data and the specifics of what caused this problem and how we're going to get out of it.
No, but just one point, and I think what you raise is important. Whenever there is a price rise done by airlines, and sometimes it's done because it's unfair, the opposition protests and say that, this free market model that we have is problematic. Yeah. Let's bring prices down, and we need to think about the common consumer. Now there is a concern which is being raised that there is a monopoly in place. I mean, with a monopoly in place, you can actually bring down prices as well. In fact, there are many airlines in this country which are competitive. That is the nature of the industry.
And every one of us has gotten messages from relatives and friends and colleagues.
My mother is stuck in Calcutta because a flight got cancelled this morning.
In fact, the Delhi airport has just tweeted saying, please be advised that operational challenges affecting one domestic carrier are resulting in flight delays and cancellations. So there is a domino effect which has also kicked in now. We strongly recommend passengers verify their flight.
Yeah. When your year-end travel plans pick up, the domino effect is actually going to continue if this doesn't get resolved in the next 1 or 2 days.
523 flights.
This number is just going up. And let me just bring out...
I wanted to explain why it's
exactly.
Why is the number going up?
All right. So let me just explain to our viewers what exactly this is all about. I'll try and keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Indigo operates very much on a knife's edge. Their expansion is fairly unprecedented globally. At one level, it's a model which has worked for them. But in order for them to actually keep up with the rate of expansion which they are planning, they need to ensure that they've got enough crew. The fact of the matter is that they've got world record orders for Airbus aircraft, but they don't have enough flight crew. Now, why is the issue of flight crew so very important? The issue of flight crews are important because the government has mandated that given the expansion of civil aviation in this country, there has to be a greater regard for FDTL, flight duty time limitations. In other words, pilots can only fly for certain hours, after which they are deemed to be potentially under the influence of fatigue, that they're tired. Indigo used to give pilots 36 hours, challenging a large number of them every single night. The government said, no, I'm sorry, that needs to be cut down to two landings per pilot per night. For Indigo, that's a crisis. Why? Because that means they don't have enough pilots to do just 2 night landings. And we have the statistics. For Indigo to meet the requirements spelt out by the DGCA, which has told them this and warned them about this for a year plus, in November 2025, they needed 2,422 pilots, commanding officers, and they needed for co-pilots 2,153 pilots. What do they have right now? I have the numbers. As of December 2025, they've got 2,357 commanding officers instead of 2,422. So they're well short, more than 100 short of the numbers they need. And instead of 2,194 co-pilots, they have got 2,153. If you've got 200 fewer pilots, more than that in fact, then you are stuck. Where and how are you going to operate flights? You don't have the pilots, and there are new regulations. That's why you have this crisis in the country.
I'll tell you why this is pinching consumers so much right now. It's peak wedding season. All of us have families and holiday season. And the fact is, there has been no information that has been given to customers and passengers in time. They all land up at airports, and the only information that is being given, we had reporters in the morning broadcast, Vishnu, who was saying that Indigo ne bola hai कि कल सरकार ने rules बदल दिए, हम क्या करें? So none of them have been given that prior intimation, so they wouldn't have landed at airports and things wouldn't have snowballed into the control.
But can I also tell you, and I know Shiv and Padmaja want to jump in over this, but I've got so much of this literally coming out of my ears that I need to explain to our viewers another important point. And this is actually shocking. For Indigo to get this situation under control, they have asked India's regulator, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, for certain permissions, whereby the flight duty time limitations, which the government feels is necessary for passenger safety, right? Those norms are pushed passenger in this country. And I'm understanding what this is about. I have just one basic question. Indigo, why did you not get your act to surprise, which was sprung on you? And Padmaja, one final point, and I'm sorry I'm sort of hogging.
Because I think our colleagues are waiting, but quickly finish your point, please.
No, I think the point that's in fly the way it was in many cases, and things will get better from the 10th of February. And I think passengers are asking, if you are bound to ensure the safety of
Let's go to our reporters now.
Hang on. If you are bound to look after the safety of passengers as your first priority, then why this leeway?
So we've got a number of our colleagues on the ground right now from NDTV Profit. We have Danish live with us from Chennai. Sam joins us. Chandigarh, Gurpreet is live from the airport and from the Delhi airport, which is a scene of chaos. Tanushka is joining us live. But I want to go across to the airports first, to Chennai. Sam, what are you seeing over there? Because we are flooded here with passengers who are saying it's bad enough that you've got this pile up, but there's simply no communication.
That's right. Padmaja, we come to you from the Chennai airport. Till 9 o'clock this morning, there was major confusion and chaos here as the CISF at the airport entrances would not just let in passengers carrying Indigo tickets because the airport was very cautious that this does not lead to overcrowding inside the airport. At the Indigo counter, this is what even now you see. More than 100 passengers desperately waiting for information on possibilities to go on an alternate flight for refunds and see whether their travel plans can be rescheduled. And it takes a lot of time. And they're also angry that the Indigo management is not really reaching out to them adequately to make their wait less stressful. For people, there are two major problems. One, the alternate flights through other airlines could be very, very expensive, prohibitively expensive. Not all can afford. Secondly, passengers who are on tight budget, although Indigo offers refund, it will take a long time and it's not going to help them immediately. passengers bound for destinations that are only served by Indigo. For them, it's again a nightmare. I saw you last time. I'm sorry about your travel. You're stranded. Tell us about your difficulty.
Yeah, I had really pre-planned for this travel, and the worst part is if they knew that this is going to happen, because they're telling me they're sure all the flights for the next 2 days are going to get cancelled. But if you see the status online, it still says on time, and they're probably sending us the cancellation message 2 hours before departure. The least they can do is have more people attend to the passengers here and be a little more communicative about this.
Options for you now?
No option. I think I'll have to stay back.
This is the 3rd day of this crisis. This has come as a huge embarrassment. What's your message to the government?
As I said earlier, that we are dependent on Indigo for many routes. There's no other option. If there are options, the chaos won't have been as much. So we need more and make it more easier for companies to start an airline.
Right, thank you very much. And the pilots' body, of course, they have blamed it on the Indigo management for not proactively stepping in much early to address this problem and to be ready for this. But now as we speak, it's a nightmare for hundreds of passengers as they wait without any clue of when they'll be able to proceed with their travel. Will they be able to get on to other flights? Will there be refunds and things like that? Of course, Indigo says they're trying their best to be back on track, but the bigger question, should the Civil Aviation Ministry too step in to make sure this does not indefinitely lead to this kind of chaos?
And stay with me, lots of disruptions in every big airport in the country. No one is being spared. You know, if any passenger believes that this is confined to Delhi and Mumbai, you're mistaken, as Sam has shown you, as Shreyasi showed us a short while ago from Kolkata as well. This is a nationwide meltdown of Indigo operations. Tanushka is at the Delhi airport. Tanushka, what are you seeing? It's incredible images since last night, making Delhi look like a bus depot. Tanushka, go ahead if you can hear me.
Right, yes. So I'm currently present at Delhi Airport's Terminal 2, and of course, similar situation here as well. Many passengers are just coming to the airport and they're figuring out here that their flights have been cancelled. You know, most of them have not been informed by Indigo earlier in time about the cancellation. What we do understand right now is that Delhi Airport alone is seeing nearly around 70 cancellations of Indigo flights. Some passengers are here with me. Let us speak to them and understand. Sir, आप कहाँ travel कर रहे थे? और
traveling to Patna from Delhi, and I have very important engagements today at Patna. Today morning itself, the Indigo Airlines issued with the
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, issued with the tickets as well as the boarding pass. And they never informed me that your flight has been cancelled. I came to know about it only when I was checking in at the airport.
So now your flight has been indefinitely cancelled and they haven't...
And they are not providing any alternative arrangement where to stay or where they will give me tickets for another flights. And in another airlines, the flight ticket has gone, price has gone sky high.
Sky high.
It is 80,000 per ticket to Patna. So it is impossible for a common man to travel to buy such a costly ticket.
Yeah, precisely. So
and I am very sorry to say that why government is so insensitive towards this. With public, all those passengers, even international passengers are facing a lot of hardship here. What impression they will carry about Indian Airlines when they go back? So it is very bad.
So what we're understanding here at this point is that passengers are definitely talking about the skyrocketing fares as well. So if not Indigo, because Indigo doesn't have future flights planned either. We do know that Indigo has itself said that from December 3rd to 4th, this cancellation issue will persist. So then where do passengers go? The other airlines, the demand has increased onto them, thereby resulting in prices also, airfare also skyrocketing. And as we just spoke to this passenger, he just told us that a flight to Delhi to Patna at this point is in thousands for one way. It's going above 20K at this point, which is definitely not affordable for a common man. A lot of other people, passengers I've spoken to right here at the terminal who've told me one was going for a sister's wedding, the other was going for a funeral as well. In fact, all stranded with no information as to how are they to reach their destinations at this point.
You know, a quick update on the flights across different airports. As of now, Indigo cancellations for today, arrivals 43, departures 49 at Hyderabad. As far as Mumbai is concerned, 53 departure flights cancelled, 51 arrival flights, which is total cancellation of 104. That's just as of now in Mumbai. Let's cut across to Chandigarh as well. And like you were saying, Gauri, this is such a busy time. Holidays, weddings, people who have plans, and they are simply left stranded. And most of them are worried that they don't even know what's happening next.
And you know, the worst part is, as Tanushka was saying, if you have an urgent travel, why should you be shelling out 20,000 rupees for an up-country route for a one-way ticket?
When you have pre-booked,
when you have pre-booked, and it's not your fault. The airline had enough time. They did not meet those norms in time, and the passengers are paying for it now. Those who cannot not travel, I mean, those who have to travel will have to pay out this kind of money.
No, and by the way, and I know you guys will agree with me, I know a lot of people who've cancelled their Indigo flights and booked other flights right now.
Yes.
Because they simply don't.
And they're getting fleeced.
They're getting fleeced, 25,000, 30,000.
Because the other airlines know these are desperate.
भी ऐसे हुआ और अभी जो कल इन्होंने हमारे को दोबारा टिकट दिए हैं वो भी श्योर नहीं है कि ये 100% हमारे को पता है वो कैंसिल ही होगी, क्योंकि जो क्या कर रहे हैं, जो टिकट बाहर अभी महंगी मिल रही हैं, जो एजेंट्स बता रहे हैं वो अवेलेबल हैं कि आप लो, आप हम आपको लेके जाएंगे। हमारी जो टिकट है पहले वो सस्ती ली हुई है।
प्राइस हाइकिंग कर रहे हैं क्या, आपको लगता है?
है ना, ये प्राइस ही ऐसा हो रहा है, जो बाहर से इतनी महंगी टिकट है वो जा ही रही हैं फ्लाइट्स, तो अभी हम इतने पैसे कैसे पे करें जब पहले हमने 8,000 में टिकट ली है।
She's a student. A university is also closed.
She is not able to get food from that.
She's a student. A university is also closed.
She is not able to get food from that airport.
No. They are not.
Airline is not providing any food.
No accommodation, no food, no water. They didn't even ask if you need anything, and the staff is not available there. They are just MIA from the blast.
Any alternative they have given to you, because she has been stuck there for last so many hours, and you are also already, we have seen your mother is also here.
No, nothing. They are not at all assisting in anything. No help, no assistance, no guidance, no alternative. And they are not even cancelling the flight. वो बस बोल रहे हैं कि आप वेट करो, फ्लाइट जाएगी। बाकी फ्लाइट्स जा रही हैं, कोलकाता की फ्लाइट जा रही है, दिल्ली की जा रही है, पर चंडीगढ़ की फ्लाइट, कोलकाता की फ्लाइट जा रही है, दिल्ली की जा रही है, पर चंडीगढ़ की फ्लाइट अभी तक नहीं आई है। और हम यहाँ से
you don't get any answer from this query center from you where you want to
just giving us numbers, और वो नंबर्स पे अगर कॉल करो तो या तो वो स्विच ऑफ आ रहे हैं या तो वो बोल रहे हैं कि हमें नहीं पता। आप उनसे पूछो, आप उनसे पूछो। इवन वी गॉट द कॉन्टैक्ट ऑफ द ड्यूटी मैनेजर, उसका तो नंबर ही बंद है, वो तो फ़ोन ही नहीं चल रहा है।
So we have another passenger who has just got his flight cancelled. आप कहाँ जा रहे थे? Where you?
मैं झारखंड से आया था, चंडीगढ़ ऑफिशियल ट्रिप पे था। सुबह मैंने चेकआउट किया एंड जब यहाँ पहुँचा तो मालूम चला कि फ़्लाइट कैंसिल है। ना कोई मेल है, ना कोई SMS है, कुछ नहीं था हमारे पास। एंड मैंने कल का मैंने एयर इंडिया में बुक कर लिया, बट होटल के लिए मैं पिछले 5 घंटे से खड़ा हूँ और होटल कहीं मिल नहीं रहा मुझे।
तो क्या कोई मीटिंग थी, इमरजेंसी मीटिंग थी, इमरजेंसी जाना था आपने?
मैं ऑफिशियल ट्रिप पे आया था यहाँ झारखंड से, और अभी मैं वापस अपने जगह को जा रहा हूँ, झारखंड जा रहा हूँ।
So, well, if we can talk about Chandigarh airport, I'll go along with my camera person to show this counter which has been set up by airlines. We have seen the huge chaos here. The people, they are not able to understand whether their flights have been delayed or cancelled. They are not getting proper update from there. तो आपकी मैम, आप कहाँ जा रहे थे? आपकी फ्लाइट
अहमदाबाद।
क्या कैंसिल होगी या क्या?
कैंसल्ड होगी, कैंसिल।
कोई इन्होंने पहले इंटीमेशन दिया क्या एयरपोर्ट पे आके आपको?
एयरपोर्ट पे आके पता चला। हम भी गोवा जा रहे हैं।
We just got the information from here only. ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਸੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ, 에어ਪੋਰਟ ਤੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਹੀ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲਿਆ।
तो क्या कह रहे हैं कि कैंसिल है, कोई कॉम्पनसेशन कर रहे हैं, कोई और फ्लाइट अरेंज कर रहे हैं क्या?
ਇਹ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਮੈਂ ਚੌਥੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਸ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ।
This is a very important. We'll come back to you in Chandigarh, but we've got some breaking news right now. The Indigo crisis has entered Parliament now. The Uddhav Sena has given notice in Parliament over the Indigo crisis. Multiple netas, multiple MPs, politicians, their lives have also been hit as a result of the Indigo chaos. The Uddhav Sena has sought a discussion inside the Rajya Sabha on the Indigo crisis. Member of Parliament Priyanka Chaturvedi there. We're going to try and get her on the phone line or on video if we can very quickly before Parliament kicks off. But this is a very, very a big crisis. 523 flights cancelled so far. We're going to have some more very serious breaking news, guys. We've just seen it on social media. We're getting a confirmation on what's happening at the Delhi airport, which we'll put out once we've got a confirmation on that. Priyanka Chaturvedi.
Notice in Rajya Sabha seeking a response from the Civil Aviation Minister. She has asked a question in public importance. Thousands of passengers are stranded. Normal airport functioning is affected. Recurrent large-scale disruptions in airline services. Highlight a need for immediate government intervention. That's what she has said while raising this issue. I mean, she's given notice in the morning. She has sought that the Civil Aviation Minister inside Parliament make a statement. I request that the Minister make a statement on the matter at an early date. Let's get Vasudha Venugopal for more on that. Let's cut straight across to her. She's joining us from outside Parliament. And, you know, Priyanka Chaturvedi, perhaps one of the many MPs, because you've been speaking to so many people inside Parliament, Vasudha, and this is really something that's pinching everyone across the country.
That's right, Padmaja. In fact, when I spoke to opposition MPs today, remember, they've been protesting against the government, and they've been raising one issue every day. It was Labour Code, 2 days ago. Then they also talked about pollution. They also spoke about the Sanchar Sathi app, which was, eventually withdrawn. Today, a lot of them have been talking about the Indigo fiasco which has happened. And Rammohan Naidu, the aviation minister, was in the Parliament yesterday. I saw a lot of MPs asking him this question. When I met him, he said he's going for this review meeting and he'll be back in the Parliament because he was also on roster duty, but that never happened because the meeting went on for too long. In fact, the MOS of aviation today, but they've all been taking stock of the situation, but there's a sense that this situation has gotten worse and they are asking for accountability. But yes, clearly something needs to be done, but we can expect the opposition to raise it today very strongly. All of this coming at a bad time for the government because, it's with a lot of difficulty that there was a breakthrough in the logjam between opposition and ruling party, and the debates on Vande Mataram and, of course, election reforms are scheduled to happen on Monday and Tuesday. Now, with this crisis happening, the opposition is going to shift its demand, and it's really going to ask for a discussion or at least a statement from the aviation minister today. But today is Friday, remember, it's a private member's bill. So
Vasudha, she's doing this
MPs
constructively. She's actually asking for a discussion on this in Parliament, unlike the, sort of ill-informed, misguided sort of attack that Rahul Gandhi has put forward. Here you've got Priyanka Chaturvedi saying, let's have a debate on this because this is important. This is about the economy. This is about people. This is about national mood. As Gauri and Padmaja was saying, this is a critical season in which this is actually taking place.
No, but Chief, can I just Vishnu,
one second. Vishnu said that Indigo functions on a razor's edge. No, very few people actually do that. I want to say categorically here, people have always looked at Indigo as a very, very reliable, dependable airline that delivers on time. That's the reason why the effects of what we're seeing right now are being seen so badly. Vishnu, go ahead.
No, Shiv, I just think it's important. If I was a political leader, I would look at this not from a monopoly.
Vishnu, just a second. Priyanka Chaturvedi, Rajya Sabha MP of the Sena UBT, is with us on the phone line. Thank you, Priyanka Chaturvedi, for picking up this issue. We are seeing on our screens people across the country who are simply left stranded. They have no idea what to do. What are you expecting from the government, this issue that affects all of us?
So I'm hoping that the government would take this up on priority, and the Civil Aviation Minister. Till yesterday, I was hoping he would come and make a suo motu statement. Considering he only met the DGC officials as well as Indigo officials late last evening and came out with a statement that he has directed XYZ, I find that very, I would say, not really living up to the responsibility given to him and to the Aviation Ministry. That is why I've asked for a calling attention motion so that we have some statement coming from the minister on what action has been taken, what has DGCA been doing. These rules were asked to be implemented 2 years ago. Why were these airlines running away from that responsibility and have led to such chaos? And what is more interesting is the international carriers continue to be the way they are, the international routes that Indigo flies. But it's just the domestic passengers that are up for all this inconvenience, without food, without water, long waiting hours, with no communication whatsoever.
Are you looking at this primarily from a flight safety standpoint, which is what I personally believe it needs to be looked at? Or do you believe that some of the arguments raised by the opposition on some sort of a monopoly situation in Indian aviation, that is how it needs to be looked at?
No, even as a politician, I would say we should all be worried about monopolies and duopolies created in the sky. I have been raising this issue ever since we've been seeing these dynamic airfares and how the airfares are more expensive than the international routes, and nothing is being done about it. And this is what happens when you have duopolies in the sky. This also leads to these airline carriers arm twisting governments into creating policies that suit them and suit their profitability and operability. And this is what you're seeing with the Indigo Airlines. So besides the flight safety aspect, of course, that is a priority. Also, we need to understand that we are ending up creating monopolies and duopolies that only end up inconveniencing passengers and inconveniencing Indian citizens of this country.
So, Priyanka,
so I speak more as a concerned citizen.
One more related question. I'm sure you've seen the DGCA, the aviation regulator, statement last night. It appears now that Indigo has managed to persuade them to bring back or to withdraw or to give them leeway till the 10th of February on these flight duty time limitations norms. As a citizen of this country, I would just want to ask one basic question. If this is about flight safety, why is Indigo being allowed, right, to have this norm relaxed till the 10th of February? When the government has mandated it, the court has said go ahead, it's been a 2-year period. So then how is that not the fundamental issue here? And this was announced last night.
This is how I began with at the start, that they are arm twisting DGCA into policies that suit them and not implementing the orders of the High Court as well as the new norms. This is, like I said, when you have duopolies and Indigo, which has a massive market share and flights, over 2,000 flights almost, a month, that is what will happen. Any disruption to that or any accountability sought from them will lead to these disruptions, and that is what they're using to create this problem and arm twist the government into policies that suit them the most. So that is what really impacts me, and that is what affects me, and that is what triggering me to raise this issue, to make the government realize that we cannot have an airline doing whatever it feels like just because it controls the skies of India.
Let's talk about the politics of it also, the fact and the logistics also, the timeline. Priyanka, today is Friday, second half is a private member's bill time when it's unlikely that the minister will give a statement. Monday and Tuesday are designated for important discussions. In the midst of that, you have a very stark comment that has come in from the leader of opposition, politicizing this. When do you see the minister making a comment on the floor of the House, and do you see that actually becoming part of a larger political issue from the Congress side?
I would have hoped that the minister would have yesterday itself, considering this issue began 2 days ago, that he would have come suo motu, given a statement and reassured the people of this country that he is at the top of things. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. For me, it's not about politics. It's about the people of this country who are suffering the entire cost of this entire disruption and having to go through the tremendous problems that they're facing at the airports. Also goes on to show that the last priority for all, whether the airline or the government right now, seems to be the Indian citizens, these domestic passengers who had important flights to take, and they now stand disrupted. So I wouldn't want to get into the political part of it. I would want to seek accountability from the government.
Priyanka, we're going to be tracking what you're doing. Good job trying to get this into Parliament. This is something we completely agree with you needs to be discussed, and we hope it gets taken up and discussed threadbare. All of those issues you've just flagged are very, very important. We're going to break out of our Indigo coverage for just a moment, guys, because the ceremonies for President Vladimir Putin have begun at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. The ceremonial guard of honor and welcome for our VIP visitor has begun. What a night yesterday, what incredible images. And today, a foggy morning in the national capital begins. Let's just get some sound in from outside the Rashtrapati Bhavan. You can see Dr. S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, and other top officials who've gathered in the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the presidential house, for the ceremonial welcome of the Russian president. It's a long day today, lots of work to do. The Prime Minister and the Russian President had a pretty extended dinner last night. It lasted a couple of hours at least. Padmaja, me and Vishnu were here till late into the night watching and tracking whether there were going to be more viral photos. There were incredible images from the airport to the two leaders riding in that Toyota. Modi Toyota, by the way, trended at #1 for a couple of hours yesterday.
Modi what?
Modi Toyota, because that white car in which the two leaders.
But should we talk about the theories?
We must talk about the theories.
No, but I have something to say.
MH number plate, by the way.
No, the Prime Minister travels on Range Rovers very often.
Yeah.
Now, Putin may not have wanted to travel in a vehicle, but excuse me, Range Rover is owned by who?
Yeah, the Tatas.
Yeah, so then Putin got it all wrong.
Yeah, but they're not built here, though.
And there were
It's an Indian company.
There were actual
globalization.
There were actual memes about how people now are holding on to their Toyotas because suddenly it's become
the value has gone up.
The value has gone up. So who knows? These little gestures and the kind of effect that they have. So people often quibble about.
Drives a Tata, by the way.
I do drive a Tata, but that's a very different story. Let's not get into that. But yes, we've been vocal for local in that sense.
Whether the value of a Toyota Fortuner goes up or down, I won't be able to afford it either way. So let's put that part aside. But
this is fake news, by the way. But carry on.
I'm going to say that these pictures coming in from outside the Rashtrapati Bhavan are very solemn, very, very nice. This is an incredibly important moment. The mood has been set. You know, the images and the virality of what we saw yesterday was not frivolous in the least. Gauri,
I think the
messaging
mood was
that went
set
out.
The moment you had the Prime Minister receiving President Putin, when that news came out that it's now Prime Minister's protocol that has been set in motion there, I think the mood was set from that very moment. And it almost seemed like they were just carrying on from where they left in Tianjin, where they had that 45-minute off-script discussion, closed door. And I think that is what they carried forward yesterday as well. 3 hours private dinner diplomacy. That's what happened yesterday. So, they flipped the script in Tianjin. They carried that forward. The mood has been set, and that is what they're going to carry forward today.
Another interesting thing that happened yesterday, in that private dinner that the two leaders had, the Prime Minister himself tweeted a picture of how he gave a Russian translation of the Bhagavad Gita. There's a very interesting story. Do you know, in 2011, there was a case in Russia where they had asked for a ban on the Bhagavad Gita. It had been called militant literature. So in 2011, this matter went to court. I think it was in Siberia. And the court, of course, shot down that plea. But from then, 2011 to 2025, where the president of Russia was gifted such literature, of course, the symbolism, the fact that the Bhagavad Gita itself talks about your conduct in times of conflict, how should you conduct yourself, differentiating between right and wrong. So again, like we spoke about the car, the number plates, the symbolism therein, again, why gift a Russian version of the Bhagavad Gita? A small story there as well, Gauri.
Absolutely, that is there where you have, also Russia is one of those places where you have a lot of Hindi and Sanskrit being spoken, that entire Eastern European belt, Poland being one, but Russia being a major hub of all of that, both Sanskrit as well as Hindi, and which is why the Russian version of the Bhagavad Gita just fit in completely, both from the optics point of view and the cultural part.
We've got Aditya joining us now, Aditya Rajkol, who joins us from outside Hyderabad House at this stage. Now, after all of the events over here in the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, we'll see the President and the Prime Minister travelling to Hyderabad House. That's where the India-Russia summit is going to take place. That's what this visit is all about. Aditya, what's on the agenda?
Well, yes, we're reporting right outside the Hyderabad House. In an hour or a couple of hours from now, the meeting will be beginning here between Putin and Modi. And you rightly pointed out how there was a lot of color, a lot of vibrance in the tone that was set yesterday between Modi and Putin. The gesture by Prime Minister Narendra Modi to receive Putin at the airport, very rare. In the last decade or so, Prime Minister has only done this 6 times for very special friends and strategic partners of India. And that, of course, includes now the Russian President Vladimir Putin. And this comes at a time when a lot of discussion has happened around the India-US trade deal that hasn't materialized yet. And the tariffs certainly also being spoken about. But all the attention now at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where the ceremonial welcome of the Russian President Putin will be happening. And let's not forget that it's not just President Putin, it's also a very large delegation, a business delegation, along with the defense minister also. So what's on agenda is trade, how trade could be taken to another level, and of course the defense partnership, sharing of technology, and progress in the Make in India field. That's been Prime Minister's pet project, and that's what will be discussed in detail. So this comes at a time when there's been global uncertainty, there's been a deeply divided world, and also you were speaking about the Russian translated Gita that was given yesterday by Prime Minister Modi as a gift, as a special gesture to President Putin. Now, that book is from the ISKCON, and ISKCON has predominantly played a very significant role in Russia. And even 3 years ago, when the Ukraine crisis began, we had a lot of Indians stranded there. So the Indian government was working night and day as part of that operation. And then we had, of course, ISKCON and other such groups helping out. So that was an incredible moment that really went viral last evening. But all attention, as I said, is on the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and there, of course, the ceremonial welcome. And finally, from there, the president would be moving to Rajghat, where he would be laying wreath at the, Father of Nations Memorial, Mahatma Gandhi's memorial at Rajghat. And finally, we will be talking business right behind me. I'm standing just meters away from Hyderabad House. In about 30 to 45 minutes, I'll be entering Hyderabad House as well. And soon after the bilateral 23rd, summit meeting between India and Russia, we'll have the press statements by both these leaders, where a lot of talking points will be discussed about what was on agenda and what was really achieved. Let's also remember that last evening, both these leaders sat together for 3 hours. And as Gauri was mentioning, we had that incredible moment in Tianjin as well, where both these leaders were inside the car for 45 minutes or so discussing global issues. And that happened yesterday also, from the airport to the Prime Minister's residence at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. And of course, there would be a lot of discussions around how the trade can be taken to another level, fertilizers, the auto industry, and of course, space, high-tech, and other fields also, where there has been a lot of progress that has been made. But trade, crude oil, and defense partnership
Aditya,
is perhaps the top agenda, the top priorities that would be discussed here right
Aditya,
behind me.
it's a very large contingent that President Putin has come with, is traveling with, and a lot of it is trade. So, keeping in mind the global optics, also the global realities in which this meeting is taking place, this visit is taking place, there's a lot of focus on trade as far as this summit is concerned.
Well, absolutely. Trade is the top agenda, and trade has been the top agenda since the tariffs of Donald Trump really have been making news over the last 10 months or so, ever since he took office for the second time as the US president. Now, India has also about 25 to 50% tariffs that have been slapped against us. And this comes at a time when also the Quad meeting is not happening right now. It has unofficially being postponed, no official statement yet on the Quad meeting. Of course, US President Donald Trump was also supposed to visit India. That also clearly is not happening. But the Russian president is here in New Delhi. It's not just symbolic. It's a huge message also. On part of the Russians, it would be a message against the Western sanctions, against the kind of diplomacy that has happened from the Western side. And on the other hand, of course, it would also signify the close brotherly cooperation and friendship between Moscow and New Delhi. So trade would be at the forefront, as would be defense cooperation.
The trade imbalance between India and Russia makes this something that the two countries have a very, very long runway on. And that's the reason why it's front and center, like you and like Gauri, like you and Aditya are saying very clearly. But before we bring our guests on board, guys, and we've got a long day of coverage here on NDTV, I want to remind our viewers for a moment. I have no doubt in my mind that NDTV viewers soaked in those images yesterday, but those live pictures on our screen, plus I want to show you what captured everyone's imagination yesterday. These are the defining pictures from last night before we go to our guests. Let's put those on our screens right now. The pictures of the Prime Minister along with Putin at the Prime Minister's house, the gifting of that Bhagavad Gita, the two leaders in the car, which I am told by our social media team is the most shared image of the week. It'll probably break some kind of record because, that image of the two, that picture of the two in the car has gone completely viral. Gauri, you were in Tianjin when they rode in the car together a few months ago in September. So 2 rides in 1 year is something of a record for both these leaders, I think. But incredible images. The mood has definitely been set, and that's the reason why I think the 23rd India-Russia summit that kicks off very shortly is so exciting. So let's go back to those live pictures. Welcoming onto our coverage this morning, Shishir Priyadarshi, President of the Chintan Research Foundation, Harsh V. Pant, Vice President of the Observer Research Foundation, Dr. Siddharth Raimedi is a fellow with CSDR, and we'll be joined in a short while also by Maxim Kuznetsov, Chairman of the Russia-Asia Business Council. Shishir, I want to kick things off with you. Mood set, like we've been saying. Much to talk about, much to close, much to discuss. Everything's looking good for India and Russia this morning.
A very good morning. A very good morning. And yes, look, it's as upbeat as it could possibly be. It's been a phenomenal start yesterday. I did a quick run through to some of the international reporting. And I think, Prime Minister Modi's receiving of President Putin, which global media, at least a lot of the Middle East media, is highlighting as something very special. So I think the mood's set. But what's also important, perhaps in the context of what, this little exchange you and Gauri were having on trade, there is a somber reality underneath it. Not only is trade important, and not only because of this huge trade deficit we have with Russia, these discussions are important. But don't forget that this is taking place at the backdrop of a hugely weakened World Trade Organization. Earlier, even if you did have a global geoeconomic crisis, there was a bulwark of predictability and certainty that the institution, the WTO, did provide. Because, there were bound rates, there were schedules that countries couldn't breach. But the way President Trump has completely thrown the WTO rule book out of the window, I think all it means is that bilateral discussions, like the kind that India and Russia are having and will need to have, become even more important.
Harsh, the pictures that we saw yesterday of the Russian president getting into Prime Minister Modi's car, in fact, that has become a rage because people are talking about how he perhaps is the man who has made car selfies a trend. He was earlier with Benjamin Netanyahu. He was there with the Australian Prime Minister. He shared that car selfie with Barack Obama as well. Why are these optics important?
Let's take that across to Dr. Raimedi, who's with us at this stage. The optics of the car, it's been very much a talking point. He wasn't in a UK manufactured Range Rover. He was in a Japanese
Toyota,
right? But probably made in India. But still, go ahead.
I think the optics is pretty on point and effective because it does show that the two leaders have a special chemistry vis-a-vis each other. That, to use a word, they really have a mutual vibe towards each other. And so even if there is a lot of uncertainty, turmoil, turbulence, adjustments in geopolitics, India-Russia relations, when the two leaders meet in person, as a viewer, you can always see that they are capable of having a special rapport. They are capable of having frank, honest conversations as leaders who have high mutual regard for each other.
I think that is something that isn't stressed enough because, when you talk about leaders meeting, it is about every handshake, every move, the body language, the ease with which the two leaders are able to spend hours with each other. I think that is something that really is the hallmark of the Modi-Putin relationship. Siddharth?
Yes, indeed. And I think recently we also saw some pictures going viral about how Prime Minister Modi was part of Prime Minister Vajpayee's entourage back in 2002. And so Prime Minister Modi has definitely observed, perhaps admired Putin as a strongman leader of Russia since more than 2 decades, right? And again, the two leaders are, we have to remember, some of the longest serving leaders in world politics. I mean,
Maxim Kuznetsov also with us, the chairperson of the Russia-Asia Business Council. Mr. Kuznetsov, thanks very much for being with us. The two leaders meet at Bharat Mandapam later on in the day. That's where the summit, the business summit, takes place. What are your expectations?
So, my expectation is that Russia and India will discuss key question of bilateral trade, including trade in oil, during pressure of third countries like as US and EU. We will discuss deepening cooperation in some fields like as nuclear, atomic energy, like as space cooperation, like as cooperation in weapon machinery, and also we can discuss de-dollarization and trade in national currencies.
This picture that we were talking about, I just want to show it to our viewers. It's quite interesting. The man who made car selfies iconic. So this was the picture where, and again, it's also about breaking protocol. We spoke about it at length yesterday. The fact, even though some Russian outlets claimed that President Putin had no idea about that, he was suddenly taken aback when he saw the Prime Minister there on the red carpet. But you go out of your way in a time when everyone's, dug in their heels, they've got their backs up, everyone seems to be talking at each other. Here is somebody who is trying to engage equally with all countries, Shishir Priyadarshi, and these small gestures go a long way because you're saying, hey, listen, there is no need to be so antagonistic. We may have competing claims over things. We may have all our interests not converging at all times, but I'm willing to give a little.
Look, you actually said something straight from my heart. Two things. If any global leader today is going to the White House, there is a certain amount of natural apprehension what may come about of that conversation. The conversations could go anywhere. And completely to the contrary, a global leader comes to India and he's at least assured of a great deal of warmth, respect and honor from the entire Indian government. And Prime Minister Modi leads that. He makes, obviously with Vladimir Putin, he has this amazing personal relationship, goes back a long, long time. But even to a leader where he would not have had it. And I think this is that big difference that India has shown to the world of friendship, of holding hands right through difficult times. But the second point that you just raised, I think is very, very important. Two sides, and obviously a lot of work is done at the senior bureaucratic level also. When a lot of two countries meet, there is often holding back your cards fairly till the last minute. You negotiate, sometimes peripherally, bit on the core, and it's only at the last minute that you tend to reveal it. I think one big advantage of trust that we have with the Russians is that you start from the first day and the first hour itself. So it's very easy for India to go across and say, look, we want your oil, but these are the pressures we're facing. It's very easy for India to say, we want your defense equipment, but we do not want to be over-dependent. And Russia understands. And I think that is why this summit and the expectations from what will come about at the midday conference is huge.
There's a picture that's going viral right now that Padmaja just shared with us, which is fabulous. The man who made car selfies iconic. This is the kind of stuff that citizens are going to take home with them while they're watching coverage, because these are the pictures that everyone's looking at very closely. A picture of Modi with Putin. There's one with Netanyahu, one with Obama, and one with Keir Starmer in those pictures. Incredible pictures. Taking the whole carpool aesthetic to a new political and global level. I don't know how many more pictures like this there are or there will be, but these 4 pictures telling their own story, Padmaja.
Absolutely, and it keeps evolving. I remember from 2014, there used to be this entire collage of the Prime Minister receiving dignitaries and the hugs that used to happen, Vishnu. So that became a thing, whether it's going to be just a handshake, whether it's going to be a hug.
Diplomacy has made way for
huggy days are over, and that's what you're trying to say.
I really wish you wouldn't call it huggy days, but sure. So it started with a hug diplomacy, and now it's turned into this these car selfies.
Car selfies, yes.
And we just had Mr. Priyadarshi say that a lot of people would say, oh, diplomacy is very serious business, but it is these little things, these small touches which go a long way, which, set you apart and say it's not just about, suits and ties, it's also about that personal touch when you want to break through, things which are not entirely pleasant.
And this is a visit that is being watched from Washington to Brussels to London to Paris, everywhere. And when these images come out, they also send a message that, you know what, you want to talk about oil, but we talk about it on our terms. Don't talk down to us about how India needs to decide its foreign policy and national interest and energy security. I think that's the second message that these pictures send out.
So guys, the Prime Minister's cavalcade, we're told, is headed towards the President's house now. So he will be arriving momentarily. Security arrangements are in place. The Prime Minister arrives. Then the guest of honor, of course, arrives, and the President herself will be there. There will be a ceremonial tri-services guard of honor. Very, very elaborate ceremony and ritual in the wonderful large forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan right atop Raisina Hill in central Delhi. This is, of course, an honor that is extended to all visiting heads of state, and President Vladimir Putin, who was interviewed, by the way, by Vishnu way back in 2002, his first ever interview to an Indian network. That's gone separately viral, I'm told, because of how young Vishnu looks and how.
Are you suggesting? What are you suggesting?
Both Vishnu and Vladimir Putin have preserved their youth. Let me go ahead and say that, because it is fabulous how these two men don't seem to age. The Russian president may have lost a little bit of hair.
I've gained a lot of weight.
NDTV is the same.
That's why they say you lose some, you gain some.
Vishnu's hair's got a little grey, but he still looks very much the same.
When I was trying to convince the Russians to give me the interview, I said both your president and I are still working in the same place.
Tell us, Vishnu, what is he like in person? Because a lot of people, obviously 99.9% of the people in the world haven't met him, but there's so much myth-making about the kind of person he is. When you met him, what was it like? What is he like in person?
Firstly, he speaks English. Number two, when he shakes your hand stands shook. All right? But let's come back to that thought. The Range Rover is back shift, but I presume that's what our Prime Minister is in today.
Yeah.
And the Russian president will be on his beast, I'm pretty sure. Which is a term for what the US president operates, their limousine, but he operates a Russian variant of that, not
What's
of that.
What's the difference between the two beasts?
No, both of them are heavily armored. Both of them have secure transport, secure communications. Both of them are IED resistant to a certain extent.
Or communication, they would
NBC, nuclear, biological or chemical warfare resistant. So there is Delhi's pollution all. Putin wouldn't be breathing that inside his car.
I can only imagine. But here's the Prime Minister, External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar is with him. That's the close perimeter security that you see right behind the Prime Minister as he arrives. All the dignitaries, the three service chiefs are also there. Senior officials from embassies, special invitees from political parties, and more. They'll all be there.
And all senior ministers are there for the ceremonial gathering of the
The Tri-Services Guard of Honor is right ahead of the guests of honor. The chatter you hear on the camera, in case our viewers are wondering, is these are the media, video journalists and camera persons who are at a slight distance away, so that's them chatting amongst themselves and getting into position before the guests actually arrive. The people you see in your frame are presumably, Gauri, you'd know this better, these look like embassy officials.
Most of them are.
People from embassies and all of them special invitees, obviously, because this is who wouldn't want to be in the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan this morning? With everything that's happened in the last, since February this year when President Trump took over, the incredible, tumultuous year that we've seen so far. And Gauri, you've been lucky enough to have had a ringside view of the climax, I would say, in Tianjin.
Indeed.
This is where everyone wants to be this morning.
Absolutely. This all roads lead right now to this event right now, this venue, and this is something that is being watched and tracked globally. Everybody in Trump, whether it's the Oval Office or the 10 Downing Street, everybody wants to know what can happen here. And someone very senior I spoke to yesterday told me that people are trying to find answers to Ukraine war in Kiev, Brussels, and DC. Who knows? The answer probably lies in New Delhi, and that's a fact, because this is where all the world is watching right now, figuring things out and understanding that India right now is negotiating, dealing with all global headwinds on its own terms. I think that is the single biggest thing, on its own terms. We do what's best for us and we engage with everybody on an equal footing. And that's the message that's being sent out to President Trump as well right now, who would definitely want to know what's happening here.
Minister Piyush Goyal, I can see in the crowd there. I can see the Principal Secretary, I can see a few other officials. Can you guys spot anyone else? Here's Prime Minister Modi.
The President and the Prime Minister over there on your screens right now. This is the ceremonial welcome in the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. This is what is given to heads of state. It's a very formal ceremony. There'll be a tri-services sword, guard of honor. We'll see the Russian president walk past the tri-services assembly of soldiers from the Army, Air Force and Navy. He'll be taking the salute. The anthems will play. He'll be meeting several of the dignitaries, other people assembled over here. And later on, of course, he returns to Rashtrapati Bhavan this evening, and he flies out of there this evening after his banquet with the President. These are live images coming in from Rashtrapati Bhavan right now. After this is the all-important summit that takes place in Hyderabad House. That's just a short distance away, just about less than 5 minutes away from this particular location.
From here they go to Rajghat, right, Vishnu?
Yeah, I think you're quite right. So they go to Rajghat, and then after Rajghat they go to Hyderabad House, and then later on to Bharat Mandapam. That should be approximately 3 p.m. or so by the time they get over there before the evening sort of occasion, as it were. So this is a very formal event, but this is the start of the visit. This is the official start of the visit. We've been talking about it since yesterday. That was just his arrival. But once his guard of honor is presented is when it officially begins.
So we've got Aditya Raj Kaul and Vasudha joining us live from Hyderabad House. We also have Gulzeen Wagma, Center for Iranian Studies, live with us, along with Ambassador Shashank, our former Foreign Secretary, Rajouri Siddharth Jayaprakash, Junior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation, all live with us. But I want to go across to our colleagues first, Vasudha and Aditya. Vasudha, so the Prime Minister already there at Rashtrapati Bhavan. I believe the Russian delegation has also just passed you.
Absolutely. In fact, the Prime Minister's cavalcade passed by around 10:48. And Padmaja, this is the road that leads to Rashtrapati Bhavan. It is just between North Block and South Block. And remember, the whole of Lutyens is being redesigned under Narendra Modi. So this used to be the Prime Minister's office and, of course, the Defence Ministry, MEA. Now everything is being moved out. But this road leads to Rashtrapati Bhavan. There are flags, and look at the security arrangement everywhere. There's been a lot of critical emphasis on the kind of security that's been put in place. At the Rashtrapati Bhavan, of course, there'll be a ceremonial welcome of President Putin. He's on a state visit, so clearly there's going to be, this ceremonial welcome is going to be grand, and that happens with anybody who's on a state visit. And also, this is a privileged relationship that we share with Russia, time tested, and also the time for India to consolidate on this relationship that it has had for several years. He will also be officially introduced to the NSA and his cabinet and the cabinet of Modi's ministers. So several key ministers have also been called to the Rashtrapati Bhavan today. And then, of course, the formal reception will take place of President Putin by the head of state, which is President Murmu, and head of the government, which is the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And from here, of course, he goes to Rajghat, which has become a pilgrim spot of sorts for all international delegates, symbolizing the greatest gift that India has given to the world, Mahatma Gandhi and his principles. And then Hyderabad House,
about peace.
4 important things. A pact on mobility, A pact on mobility and a pact that will identify areas of cooperation is what I've been told.
Absolutely. What better time than now, symbolic, when he will be laying the wreath at Rajghat. Aditya, there are about 15 MOUs and about 10 odd pacts that are likely to take place. We've spoken about energy, but the Labour Mobility Pact also focus on fertilizers that is so important for India. Those could be some of the areas that the two leaders will focus on. The summit has officially begun. The visuals are on our screen. Walk us through what could be the big highlights of the summit level meeting that will take place soon.
Well, that's right. NDTV is reporting right now from outside the Hyderabad house, where the official summit will be beginning in an hour from now. But right now, the focus entirely on Rashtrapati Bhavan, where officially the trip of President Putin will be beginning with a ceremonial welcome by the Indian government. And present would be Prime Minister, who has already reached there, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar, and several key ministers, including the Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal. Because trade, defense, and the diplomacy between Moscow and New Delhi is of paramount importance. And that's why when Modi and Putin meet later today at the Hyderabad house, the top discussion would be, of course, to build on the ties, the historic ties between Russia and India, but also discuss global issues, including the current war that has been just ongoing for almost 3 to 4 years now between Russia and Ukraine. Remember, Donald Trump has been trying his best over the last few months to have some kind of a peace process in place, but hasn't really been successful even today. So that's what from the very beginning, the Prime Minister Modi had also said that this is not an easy...
Shashank, welcome. Big day today for India, Russia. What are you looking forward to most?
Well, President Putin is visiting India after 4 years, and the Ukraine war is still going on, though the efforts have been made to bring an end to the war, which have not succeeded so far. So I think that this will be really laying the foundations of a very wide-ranging kind of relationship between Russia and India. We have spoken for a long time for our relationship to change from defense-oriented relations to multiple area relationship, to have from buyer-seller agreements to go towards joint production, joint research, joint investments, and to go for technology transfers in various fields, civilian and defense and others. So I feel that even if we don't agree to everything being announced at this time, but I'm quite sure that this will lead to the foundations for a very firm relationship of friendship between our two countries. And one of the pushing factors is that President Trump has decided to put unilateral tariffs on India. And while it has not been done to, let's say, countries like China and European Union, but India has been singled out by saying that India has been selling the
again and again.
processed oil.
And that hypocrisy we've called out again and again. You spoke about the war. In fact, Mr. Wagmar has tracked the Russia-Ukraine war very closely. He's joining us from London. Barzeen, let me ask you this. Do you think the solution, the peace framework, all of that lie actually in New Delhi and not in, most certainly not in Brussels, not in DC either?
Is out to woo Washington in more ways than one. And of course, Mr. Trump has been rather soft on him. But what is important to note, Gauri, is that just prior to Mr. Putin's arrival, a week or so ago, was a demonstration of India's strategic autonomy. If you recollect that India signed a deal with Washington for defense supplies of 216 Excalibur projectiles and 100 Javelin missiles. Yeah. That deal was inked for $93 million. And in November itself, a month earlier, for $946 million, naval choppers, the Seahawk choppers, have been okayed between Washington and New Delhi. So despite Mr. Trump's huffiness, as we see on social media, that India and Russia can do what they want, I don't care, this, that, and the other, the point is the Pentagon's relationship with New Delhi continues on a very even keel. And it also demonstrates, as I'm trying to vindicate, that India is not going to be entirely dependent on Moscow for its nuclear and other military arsenal, because purchases have come down to 36% from what used to be 72% of supplies from Moscow as such. And it does continue diversifying and choosing who it wishes to purchase from.
No, it's very interesting what Berzin talks about. The two deals that have just been signed by India with the United States, and I agree with him completely, for Excalibur shells, Javelin missiles, and a maintenance package for the naval Seahawk helicopters, just shows you how bulletproof defense contracts really are, between countries. You've got all this geopolitical churn, but when it comes to combat capability, especially in a year of war, those things are in many ways untouchable, and I think that's what he's referring to. And it's also indicative, really, of how temperamental leaders may buffet relations and give the impression that things are on a downswing. But at the end of the day, there are these very impenetrable layers of relations between countries like India and the United States. The Prime Minister being there at the airport yesterday to receive President Putin, riding in that car with him, even though India has an incredibly independent time, there's no mistaking the fact that there is messaging here as well. Padmaja, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. In fact, we've spoken about the historical links that these two leaders have had way back from 2001, whereas Chief Minister, and those pictures again and again, people have referred to that from 2001. And that is when it's not as if Russia is being used as a counterbalance against America now that this is a recent development, that this is some kind of a message that is being sent out to Donald Trump because of standing behind our then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He was there in the second row. Today, of course, he is engaging directly with the Russian Prime Minister as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Standing there behind Atal Bihari Vajpayee, you see Putin seated Rajoli Jayaprakash, that the fair weather friend or an all-time enduring friend of India right now, the most reliable ally that we have.
And I believe that in the strategic calculus, like since the 2000s, we've had annual visits. I wouldn't go as to say that Russia is our only friend. Russia is an important friend, obviously, but I think Russia is extremely relevant for India in its strategic calculus. For that, then that is because of the geopolitical factors, such as us not having any tensions with Russia, or since the Cold War times, still the post-Cold War times, having no irritants in the bilateral partnership. So that is something that is sustained even into this decade. So we see that we have structural problems with other countries, other major powers like the United States, but we see the same thing for Russia not existing. The global order or priority shifting, we see that India and Russia try to make their bilateral the relevance of India or Russia always comes from time. Like for instance, even in, at the backdrop of this visit, we see that economic ties and trade is being given a stronger characteristic. But if you look at the previous decades, it was the military technical partnership that stood as the bedrock of the bilateral relations.
No, and absolutely. The paradigm in which all of this is happening right now is very, very focused on economy, trade, and business, and that's the reason why the two leaders will be addressing CEO's conference, Gauri, at the Bharat Mandapam a little later. So I think these are live images suggesting that the president of Russia's cavalcade will be pulling up at the forecourt of the Rashtrapati Bhavan momentarily. These are live pictures from the beautiful Raisina Hill on a very, very cold December morning here in the national capital. That building you see on your screen, for those not familiar, is the South Block. And just beyond that, flanking it, is the North Block. And then there's Rashtrapati Bhavan right in front of it. Ambassador Shashank, talk to us about the importance of messaging and images. The very viral pictures of Prime Minister Modi and Putin riding in that car together, not breaking protocol, but, doing things interestingly and being there to receive him. What is the importance of messaging in all of this, Ambassador Shashank?
Well, when I listen to the messaging for the Western countries, USA and Europe, I think it is not really so much for them. I'm quite sure that we would like in the longer term to promote our relations with these countries. I think the messaging is more for China, because Russia-China partnership has a no limit and very critical partnership. And if you remember that some time ago, the Russians and Chinese were also decrying China a little less, but Russia much more. That Quad is not a military partnership for India. And we do not want to make it anti-China. We want it to be to balance, keep China peaceful, friendly to all the other Asian countries. So I think that's very important because President Putin has also spoken during this visit.
You know, Gauri, by the way, is a China scholar. Not many people know that. You want to add to that, Gauri? That's very, very interesting.
Two things there. One is that when you talk about the Russia-China relationship, in the last 3 years, there has been a major shift that has happened with China actually ensuring that it funds Vladimir Putin's war. So in that sense, there has been some sort of a, big daddy, small daddy kind of an equation that has come up, and President Putin. And I think that is an important part of the relationship which gets pushed out through these messaging here. And I think that's the important part. And to take a Russia-China, India-China or a Russia-India-China equation, there are underlying unresolved issues. And that
Bodyguard, which is an elite cavalry unit, is right behind them. Beautiful, beautiful image of the two heads of state. The President House, the Rashtrapati Bhavan, iconic images of huge importance, of great symbolism, as the President now gets onto that dais to observe that salute.
अंतरसेना संबंध निरीक्षण के लिए हाजिर।
This is President Putin introducing President Draupadi Murmu to senior officials from Russia, the embassy, the delegation, the business leaders, the officials from the Kremlin and others. Wonderful pictures of a personal touch where the two heads of state with the Prime Minister dutifully right behind them, according them that protocol and honor, standing behind the two heads of state. Remember, in India, the head of state is the President of India, as is President Vladimir Putin, as he personally, one by one, introduces President Murmu to each of the visiting delegation's top officials. Each one of them gets a personal introduction, a few words of briefing for the President as well. The President, remember, would have already been fully briefed by the Prime Minister's office, the National Security Advisory Board and the External Affairs Ministry, of course, on this visit, the ramifications, everything that's on the table. And we do know that President Murmu takes a very, very deep interest and reads extensively on every leader that visits. This is not the first time she's meeting President Putin, of course, but this visit is in many ways momentous. The Tri-Services Guard stands ready as the President completes the ritual at the Rashtrapati Bhavan forecourt. Remember, the Russian President's day will also end at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, where there will be a farewell banquet for him tonight before he departs back for Russia. And now President Putin bidding a brief see you later to the Prime Minister as he gets into the Oris Senat. That's the name of the vehicle that the very old, just in 2018, created just to create this vehicle, and I'm told they've just come up with a new civilian version of this vehicle as well. That's the car in which the President now travels. Convene at the Hyderabad House, where the India-Russia, the 23rd India-Russia summit will take place between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin. So that's an end of those live pictures from the forecourt. Vishnu, Padmaja, Gauri, all of us still here. The rolling coverage continues. The next live images will come into, come in from Rajghat. But Padmaja, the symbolism of dignitaries visiting India and going to the Rajghat, that's a fixture. That's a fixture for most world leaders who come to India because of how, not just how obvious the symbolism is, but, each one of them, I'm told, wants to go to the Rajghat because everyone's heard of the Mahatma, everyone's heard of Gandhi, but the symbolism of Vladimir Putin going there, one of the world's most polarizing leaders, his first visit to India since the Ukraine war, the fact that the Indian Prime Minister has said this is an era of peace, not of war. All of that's going to be playing on everyone's mind as we see those pictures of the President. Absolutely. And in fact, this has been a fixture, like you said, for every single visiting dignitary. Interestingly, about 25 years ago, when for the first time since becoming President, Mr. Putin had visited India. At that time, too, he had gone to Rajghat. He had spoken about the importance of Mahatma Gandhi, the messaging by, somebody, father of our nation, the message of peace given by Mahatma Gandhi. So again, Rajghat, permanent fixture, and the message today of him going there, the number of things that have happened since yesterday, the gifting of the Russian translation of the Bhagavad Gita. Interesting thing that Aditya also mentioned earlier, that the Bhagavad Gita that was gifted by Prime Minister Modi was the one which has been, this is the version from ISKCON. Yeah. The case that was fought in 2011, that same version of the Bhagavad Gita, again talking about, righteous